Hey everybody, Jason here again with the GD&T Basics video question line, and today's topic is linear vector tolerance calculations. It's something that we cover in our design course. In fact, these slides are directly from our design course, but we wanted to put together a quick video to show the basic level of doing a tolerance stackup calculation using a linear vector stackup. So let's take a look at the example part here. Now, this example part comes from a larger assembly, but really what we're trying to do is we're trying to decide how much profile of a surface tolerance we should give these two surfaces. And these two surfaces are being controlled in their location, their orientation, and their form with this one call out for profile of a surface. And they're giving a 10 thousandths tolerance, so they can deviate 5 thousandths either direction from the true profile. And that's with respect to A and B. So datum A is established by datum feature A, which is the bottom of this part. And then datum B is established by datum feature B, which is the pattern of 4 holes in the base of this part as well. So using A and B, we've locked down all 6 degrees of freedom. We can use a vector tolerance analysis to check and make sure that the tolerance amount for these surfaces result in a functional outcome. Meaning, wherever these surfaces end up in 3D space, we want to make sure to apply just enough tolerance to make sure that the parts function, but not too much that we're irrationally putting a tight tolerance on features that don't need it. So if we take a look at this assembly, we can see that we have the housing, and then we have a couple of features that get assembled inside of it. We have the bearing, the shaft, the pinion, and this surface here on the left sets the location of the gear/spindle assembly. And this surface here sets the location of a flange that holds the whole assembly in. So now we can kind of see the primary function of these two features. They're setting the location of other parts within our assembly. Where these surfaces end up will affect how this assembles. If the left surface moves to the right, the assembly won't fit and the cover won't be able to be closed. If it moves too far to the left, the assembly might have too much lateral freedom, and that far left feature gets way too thin and probably not structural. If the right surface deviates into the left, the flange will bottom out on the bearing and we won't be able to assemble this. If the surface moves to the right, the assembly will again have too much lateral freedom and the flange will stick too far out from the main body. So right out of the gate, we have 2 functional requirements that we can see that we can actually go check and calculate. First of all, the bearing spindle assembly must fit, meaning we just need to be able to assemble everything and have enough clearance. The other one is kind of a loose tolerance, but the bearing spindle assembly must have no more than 150 thousandths of freedom laterally, meaning the gap between the bearing and that green collar can't be any more than 0.15. So we know that the gap is what we're interested in. We first need to understand what features and tolerances are going to affect this gap. It will change depending on the features and their stackups. So we know that if the left surface deviates left, and the right surface deviates right, the gap will grow. And we can measure how far these two surfaces get from each other. We'll call that vector 1. We can draw a line between those 2 red surfaces. And if the bearings come in a little bit narrow, the gap will grow as well. So picture the bearings getting a little bit thinner. That shuffles everything over to the left. And we know the distance between those 2 surfaces on each one of those bearings. We can call those vector 2 and vector 4. And if the surface locating the bearings deviate toward each other, the gap grows. So the 2 purple surfaces on the spindle can get a little bit closer, the 2 surfaces that are setting the locations of the bearings. And if they do get closer, that'll increase the gap. And we can measure the distance between those 2 purple surfaces, and we can call that vector 3. And we can see that vector 1 is pointing to the right, meaning if vector 1 grows, it increases the gap. But if vector 2, 3, and 4 decrease, which is why they're pointing to the left, the gap grows as well. So if we consider the largest allowed distance for V1 and then subtract the smallest distances for V2, V3, and V4, we could calculate the largest stackup that results in the largest gap. So when we're drawing a vector map, it's always easiest to show vectors from feature to feature within one part. For example, vector 1 is from the red surface to the other red surface. And vector 2 is from the gray surface of the bearing to the other gray surface of the bearing. And vector 3 is from the purple surface of the spindle to the purple surface of the spindle. But you can see where these vectors interact with each other are a zero interaction. There's no stack up. They are touching each other. The gray surface on the bearing is touching the purple surface on the shaft. This allows us to assume a stack up. And you can see the directions of the vectors also matters. Meaning when we add these values together, we want a positive value left over if we wish to have a gap. If that value left over is negative, that means that V2, V3, and V4 were larger cumulatively than V1. V2 and V4 simply come from the bearing specification sheet, and we can see that the width of this bearing is 0.44 plus or minus 10 thousandths. That means V2 and V4 in their max and min would be 0.4 plus or minus 10 thousandths. And then for V3, we see on our drawing here that the two surfaces in question, one of them is datum feature C and the other is being controlled with respect to datum feature C as a secondary datum. And the true profile of that surface is 1.288 away from datum C. And with a profile of a tolerance of 60 thousandths, that means that surface can deviate from its true profile plus or minus 30 thousandths in either direction. So essentially we have a vector 3 of 1.288 plus or minus 30 thousandths from that nominal value. And then vector 1, we can do the same thing. We see that the nominal distance between these two surfaces, if we use the basic dimensions and a little bit of math, is supposed to be 2.25. So the true profile of both these surfaces back to the datum reference frame is supposed to be 2.25 from each other. And each surface gets a profile of a tolerance of 10 thousandths, meaning each surface can deviate left or right from their true profile by 5 thousandths. And if we want to grow the distance between these two, one can go left 5 thousandths, the other one can go right 5 thousandths, and increase that gap by 10 thousandths. And the opposite can happen too. The left surface can deviate in 5 thousandths, and the right surface can deviate left 5 thousandths. And we can see that we would reduce the distance between these two by 10 thousandths. So if they're nominally supposed to be at 2.25, they can grow or shrink by 10 thousandths, resulting in a vector of 2.25 plus or minus 10 thousandths. Now, if we use these vectors and we add them together, remembering that V1 is positive, V2, V3, V4 are negative, and we want to calculate the smallest gap, we would be interested in when V1 is at its absolute smallest, and V2, V3, and V4 are at their absolute maximum. So using these vectors, we can simply do a quick tolerance stackup. V1 min is 2.240, V2 max is 0.450, V3 max is 1.318, V4 max is 0.450. Do a little bit of math and we can find that the smallest gap we have is 0.022. And we could do the same thing for the largest gap. V1 max minus V2 min minus V3 min minus V4 min. And that would result in the largest gap. So V1 came in really big, and V2, V3, and V4 came in really small. That's the result of a largest gap. And we can see that the largest gap would simply be 0.142. Now we can check these two values and make sure that we've met our functional requirements. And we have a positive gap, meaning things will assemble worst case scenario and have a worst case scenario smallest gap of 0.022. And we also know that we won't have any more freedom or slop in our assembly than 0.150 because our largest gap was 0.142. Now, this is just a very simple linear vector stackup calculation. The tolerance calculations with GD&T and without GD&T can get much more complicated than that. And we show you the foundational building blocks of doing those tolerance calculations in our design course, as well as this example. So if you wish to dig a little bit deeper, check out our design course. Hopefully this sheds a little bit of light on tolerance vector analysis.
Our goal is to be your best source for GD&T information online. It's important to us that everyone involved in engineering and manufacturing have the chance to learn and better understand GD&T on your prints. We have many free resources to help you get started on your learning journey. Subscribe to our GD&T community using the link in the description below or visit our website. Test your knowledge with our GD&T and print reading quizzes. Download helpful charts and access articles written by our training experts.